Healthcare and Racial Inequality in Modern America by Natalie Mazzola. Timeline of Racism in the U.S. In 1619, the first African American slaves arrive in the colonies. In 1863, Abraham Lincoln publishes the Emancipation Proclamation that claims all slaves are forever free. In 1881, Tennessee passes the first of many Jim Crow segregation laws that would become widely popular throughout the South. In 1954, Brown v. Board of Education rules segregation is unconstitutional. In 1964, the Civil Rights Act is signed prohibiting discrimination of all forms, especially on the basis of race. Although America has come a long way since the 17th century, racial inequality is still prevalent in many ways in modern society. What causes racial inequality? First, outdated institutional policies, refusal to address systemic racism in modern day, and unconscious bias perpetuated by negative stereotypes. But why does race have so much power in a world that's seemingly equal? Firstly, historical context between racial majorities and minorities. It was only a couple centuries ago that blacks used to be counted as 3/5 citizens in the census. Also, minorities will receive inferior treatment due to their lack of representation in government. Lastly, a country that used to emphasize on one's race, institutions are still in place. Modern racism, most times it's the institution and not the individual that is racist. Instead of what used to be the blatant Jim Crow racism, our society has moved to a more laissez-faire type of racism. What does this mean? Laissez-faire racism is unconscious, unthinking, and unintentional. But how does this relate to our healthcare system? Racism in modern healthcare. It is shown by many studies that there is a geographic maldistribution of medical resources. Along with that, healthcare providers do not see poor people or racial minorities as desirable. This is because of their usual low socioeconomic status. Therefore, their insurance coverage is not as high as majorities, and there are ineffective discrimination policies, which basically are meant to stop racial bias, but have no ways of doing so. How to improve racial disparities. 1. Admitting inequality still exists. 2. Guaranteeing that healthcare is a fundamental right to all citizens of the U.S. And 3. Removing bias from healthcare providers in a more effective way.